Thank you, Stan. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Hartford School Building Committee regular meeting, December 16th, 2024. Call this meeting to order at 12:02 p.m. First item on the agenda is roll call. Mr. Little, please, and thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Mr. Paul Drummond.
Present.
Councilman Clark. Ms. Sherry Davis-Gooch.
Present.
Mr. Al Gary.
Present.
Mr. Edison Silva. Mr. Clarence Corbin.
Present.
Ms. Shantae Browdy. Ms. Jennifer Hockenhall.
Present.
All right, with 4 voting members present, we do have a quorum. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Little. Appreciate you. All right, everyone. Item number 2 on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes from the November 18th, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Chief Davis-Gooch. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Gary, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to roll call. Board Chair Hockenhall.
Approved.
Chief Davis-Gooch.
Yes.
Just in case they hopped in, Ms. Browdy. Mr. Silva. Councilman Clark. Mr. Corbin.
Yes.
And Mr. Gary.
Yes.
All right, with 4 yeses, motion carries. Item number 3 on the agenda is public participation. I'll read a little note here. Public participation will be supported through the duration of this meeting by using the comments function on either YouTube, Facebook, or by emailing comments directly to myself at paul.drummy@harvard.gov prior to or during the meeting. Okay, everyone, which brings us to item number 4, administrative items. There are no administrative items at this moment. Which brings us to item number 5, which is current projects under construction, Arcadis O&G, CNR, program management, 5A being action items, and this is where I hand it over to Mr. Buckus.
Thank you, Mr. Drummy. First order of business today is change order number 28 to Newfield Construction for the Buckley High School project. The value of this change is $35,139. The items are expected to be considered eligible for reimbursement and have been approved by the change order subcommittee. We ask your endorsement.
Jack, is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Gary, second.
I'll second that.
Mr. Corbin, discussion. Hearing none, we'll move on to roll call. Councilman Clark. I did see he was going to be attending, so I'm going to be checking on him. He emailed the group just before we started. Board Chair Hockenhall.
Yes.
Chief Davis-Gooch.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Browdy. Not here. Mr. Silva. Not here. Mr. Corbin.
Yes.
And Mr. Gary.
Yes.
Okay, with 4 yeses, motion carries. Jack, please.
Next, we'll have a presentation by SLAM Collaborative regarding the furniture, fixtures, and equipment package for Buckley High School and Buckley Central Administration. Craig? Greg, is that you, or will Amanda?
No, I'm sorry. Kemp is making the presentation, so
Yeah.
we can get it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Jack. I couldn't find the unmute button. Good afternoon to the committee. We have a brief presentation here to go through our furniture, fixtures, and equipment package for Buckley High School and Central Administration. This is the same presentation that we made a week or so ago to the Family Community Engagement Committee, and we will make the same presentation to the Board of Education tomorrow night. Next slide, please. The objective of this presentation and today's approval is to obtain approval for our Phase 8 document package to go to the state for plan review. What that package includes are the furniture, fixtures, and equipment for Bulkley High School and central administration, commissary, building, and print shop. You can see the list of what that includes. It's administrative office furniture, library furniture, classroom desks and chairs, equipment in general, gym and fitness equipment, music, classroom furniture and risers, storage furniture, shelving, tables, cafeteria furniture, and utility systems. Next slide, please. So how this phase fits into the broader context of the project, you can see that this committee has approved 7 packages previously to this. There are a total of 9 packages in the project. This is Phase 8 of 9 for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And then we will have a future Phase 9 of 9 for technology equipment, which we'll be presenting to this committee next month. Next slide, please. Acknowledging that it's been probably a couple of years since anybody has seen any imagery related to the Bulkley project. Hopefully you've driven by the site recently and seen the progress. I was there last week and I'm really pleased with the progress. We thought we would just roll through a few images of before and afters for exterior, just to refresh people's minds, and then also roll through a few interior images, this being the east side of the building, before and after. Next slide. Just to set the stage for what Amanda's going to present in a moment with the furniture package. So thank you. That's being the commissary building on the Wilmarme frontage on the north side of the site. So as far as interior design, next slide. Amanda has put together the interior materials palette, which is represented here. We had previously presented this to the committee and the Board of Ed years ago as part of the overall building design approval. Just putting it up on the screen to remind people of the color palette and the materials that are in the building as a precursor for the selections made for fabrics and other colors with the furniture package. Next slide, please. And just again, some interior imagery, this being the main entrance vestibule on the north or the east side of the site, where students will enter the building from the bus drop off each day with the stair up to the upper lobby, this being the upper lobby. In that far corner, you see the welcome sign where the administrative offices would be. Next slide. This being what we call the North Concourse, the entrance from Weathersfield Avenue on the north side of the building, which those doors at the far end of this image enter into that upper lobby of the previous slide. This is the South Concourse, also from the entrance from Weathersfield Avenue behind us in this image, and the doors in front of us in this image are going to the parking lot side on the east side of the building. This is where the auditorium entrance is, with the stair that goes up to the upper entry to the back of the auditorium as well. Next slide. And that just gives you a little bit of a background for Amanda's presentation for the FF&E design. So I'm going to turn it over to Amanda Hastings. Amanda?
Thanks, Kim. So starting with those images is sort of where we began with the furniture design, keeping in mind the feel and the look that we have presented for Bulkley. And we really wanted to make sure that the furniture is going to enhance that feeling that whatever you saw in those renderings, even though those were done a few years ago and some of the images might not exactly show what the furniture we have landed on is, but it really was important for us to start with those images and maintain that integrity throughout the project. We started this project working with Sherry and department heads, and we went through each area, meeting with them over the course of the summer to really discuss what furniture was in each space, what really worked for this, always tying it back to what was done at Weaver to make sure that there's parity between the two schools. But if there's anything that might be different here or programs that might be different that required something else, we met with those people and really worked to figure out exactly what was needed for each space. So right now what we're kind of going through is a quick overview of each of these spaces just to give you a sense of what the furniture does look like throughout. Again, it's very important for us to make sure that we're providing furniture that is going to stand the test of time. We know that it really needs to hold up to a high school environment, whether that's durability, cleanability, that the look of it doesn't feel dated in a few years. So that was really a driving force for the selections that we had here. And as you can see in this first lobby, as you saw in that rendering, it's clean and simple furniture that is going to feel elevated when you come in that space, colors that work well with the color palette, a lot of neutrals, keeping that cool gray tone that you see throughout. So that way, a lot of the furniture, if it does end up being moved, can easily transition from one space to another without feeling like the color is anchoring it to one of the accent colors. And just really reiterating the fact that the school colors are a uniting factor throughout the design. Next slide. This is just a quick look at admin furniture. You have everything. Oh, sorry. That was a very quick look at admin furniture. Everything from the.
May I
Yep.
say something?
Yep,
Thank
yep.
you. And I forgive me for not saying this in the beginning during administrative items, but so we do have 14 action items today, along with 3 presentations. And I was hoping, having given this to the committee as a whole last week and going to be giving it to the Board of Education tomorrow, that we could kind of
Quick.
breeze through these presentations without compromising any integrity. Thank you.
Chairman, through you, I just have a quick correction.
Please.
So tomorrow, because we went through the Family Community Engagement Committee, tomorrow we're just seeking the approval of the BOE. I don't think there will be a need to present.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Chief Davis Gooch.
You're welcome.
So quick overview of admin furniture. Any space that you would have an office, it is consistent throughout. We are also mindful that we have already done the Board of Ed project, which is the 4th floor. So also keeping consistent with that throughout the building, furniture items do match wherever possible. Next slide. Conference room, same thing, consistent throughout, matching the furniture in the offices and other spaces. Next slide. Community support space, just again, some of those neutral furniture, there's accents in those rooms, so we were just keeping everything clean and simple in there. Next slide. This is just a reminder again of the way that the student dining looked. This is a rendering from our earlier design. When meeting with the faculty or meeting with Sherry, we determined that the booth seating on the side here probably wasn't what we wanted to go with. So what you see in the furniture on the next slide is the updated version, matching some of what we've done at Weaver, and making sure there's a variety of seating for students, but it is more conducive with what Hartford wanted to see in that space. Next slide. A quick view of the commons areas. These are on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors. Next slide, you see the furniture that we have in those spaces, making sure that they're ones that, there's no casters, there's no movability. They can be moved, they're not going to be rolling down the hallways. That was very important to the school to make sure that these ones kind of felt weighted in the space. They look nice, but we're going to hold up over time. Next slide. Oh, that was a duplicate, sorry. Next. Classrooms, again, we are trying to match what we did at Weaver. So the desk style, the furniture style that you'll see on the next slide relate to what was done at Weaver. Yep, there you go. Teachers' desks, we worked with all of them to make sure that this made sense for how they see themselves in the space. Chairs match what we have throughout the building, and then ancillary bookcases and mobile storage there to suit their needs. And what you'll see in most of the classrooms, whether it's ELL or some of the special ed spaces, any of those, the classroom furniture is consistent throughout the entire school. So that way it really gives them the flexibility if they need to move things around. Next. This is an example of the RISE program classroom, which is also the same as iGoal. So the furniture in there would match what you saw in those other classrooms. There's a little bit more specialty items in here, the soft seating, the area rug, the horseshoe table, just because those classrooms function a little bit differently. Next slide. A view of the media center. Again, this was done a little bit earlier on, so the furniture has changed a little bit, but we really worked with them to make sure that the media center is that heart of the school and that it does function for all the needs that take place in there. Next slide. This is a second view where you can see the more classroom area. Bookcases are low in the middle so that when you do come into the room, you have a view right through the window. It's easy to monitor whatever kids might be in the chairs, no matter where they are within the room, but maximizes the amount of book storage that they have in there without compromising views or being able to see what students are up to. Next slide. So this is just an overview of what the details of that furniture are. This is the one space that we did want to have a little bit more mobility. So chairs in here have casters, tables, so that way they really can move them around, flexible. Bookcases also do have casters on them, though they're hidden, so that way that they feel stationary, but down the road, if there's ever a need to be able to reconfigure the space, they do have that opportunity. Again, with the fabrics and finishes, you'll see consistently, it's bringing in those gray tones, the Berkeley school color, and just kind of keeping it neutral because we know that there's a lot happening with the architecture that we don't want to compete with. Next slide. Student Success Center, mimicking what we have in the media center, a lot of the same elements you see in here as you do in that space. Next slide. Faculty workrooms, again, we just want to make sure that they feel like an elevated space. We know it's important for faculty to feel comfortable and welcome and get a recharge in these rooms. So a little bit of a change of furniture so they don't feel like they're sitting in the same furniture as the students, but again, keeping that neutral palette in there to not compete with the accents that are in the wall. Next slide. Music furniture, pretty standard for using the same that we had at Wenger. Next slide, I think is art. Same thing, a lot of those back of house, nothing glamorous in these spaces, but all the true workhorse furniture that they need between music and art rooms, just to make sure that those spaces function for them. Next slide. And then just a quick preview of the auditorium. The only furniture that we have in here is some ancillary stuff from music department. And then the gym, again, some ancillary furniture in here, but we just wanted to give you a reminder of what those spaces look like too. Commissary, this space also relates, it's very similar to what we have in the rest of the building, a little bit different depending on their area. They have a lot more workstations, which match what we did in the Board of Ed space. So again, the furniture, even though it's in here, it is consistent with the rest of the school.
All right, thank you, Amanda. And I guess this is our last slide, and just wanted to report to the committee, pleased to report that we are on budget with both projects, with all of the furniture that is planned, as well as the technology that's planned. You'll see next month. That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving forward, now we have our action item to approve the furniture, furnishings, and equipment packages as presented. Again, this is a single action item that will cover both contracts, both the high school project as well as central administration, and we ask your approval.
Thank you, Jack. Is there a motion?
So move.
Councilman Clark, second.
Second.
Board Chair Hockenhall, discussion? Hearing none, we'll go on to roll call. Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Board Chair Hockenhall.
Yes.
Chief Davis Googe.
Yes.
Ms. Browdy.
Abstain.
Okay. Mr. Corbin.
Yes.
Mr. Carey.
Yes.
Okay. With 5 yeses, motion carries. Jack. Central administration. That's the, okay, these are,
Yes, we have, again, that vote took care of both project FF&E approvals. Next item we have is change order number 29 to Newfield for the central administration portion of the Buckley campus. Items covered here total $39,170. These items have been reviewed and approved by the change order subcommittee, and we ask your endorsement.
Jack, is there a motion?
So move.
Councilman Clark. Second.
Second.
Chief Davis Googe. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to roll call. Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Board Chair Hockenhall,
Yes.
Chief Davis Gooch,
Yes.
Ms. Browdy,
Abstain.
Mr. Corbin,
Yes.
and Mr. Gary.
Yes.
Okay, with 5 yeses and 1 abstention, the motion carries.
Next item before us is an increase to the purchase order to the Hartford Parking Authority for parking related to the central office relocation to Chapel Street. Or to Chapel Street parking area. We're leasing 150 parking spaces for the Board of Ed and their visitors. And due to the trajectory of the project, we need to increase the purchase order to cover the term of rental, as well as to cover the validations for visitors, which is running on average about $1,500 a month. So the increase is in the amount of $219,000. This has been reviewed and approved by the change order subcommittee, and we ask your endorsement.
Jack, is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Clark. Second,
I'll second that.
Mr. Corbin. Discussion. Board Chair Hockenhall, please.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Can someone just briefly explain, so is this because it's an extension of time? We thought we would be out sooner than we're going to be out. Is that what's going on, or is there a different reason?
That's part of it, Board Chair. The other part is not accounting for validation, was the larger part of it. Not knowing that the $1,500 a month average would come our way in the very beginning, but realizing that very quickly when we got started over at 280 Trumbull, and now we're at a point to where this increase in the PO will get us to the end when the Hartford Public Schools central administration moves back into the Buckley High campus.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so is these costs reimbursable?
So the short answer is no, Mr. Corbin, but the long answer is in the chairman's opinion, there's a conversation to be had with the state on this. And this goes back to being strongly asked to move into a location that was under construction and not being an appropriate place to be to perform business when it comes to central administration, and then having to find an alternate place to be during the construction of the high school portion of the campus. So there's a fight to fight, Mr. Corbin, and I'm prepared to do so when it comes to this particular expense.
Okay, understood.
I have a question.
Please, Ms. Browdy.
So are we saying we have where like the validations are equaling or almost $1,500 a month? That's the first question.
The answer is yes, Ms. Browdy.
So are we, and I don't know that this question is for you, but are we just validating everyone? You meet some meetings, I go to meetings and I don't get not myself as a board member, but I'm talking about with other entities. Mm-hmm. I have to pay for parking for many meetings that I attend, not associated with me being a Hartford board member. So can someone describe, like, who are we validating? Everybody?
Chairman, through you.
Please, Chief.
We're validating staff that are school-based who have to come to the building for meetings. Sometimes there are labor meetings that happened as well. So it's generally staff and partners of the board. Does that answer your question, Ms. Brody?
Yeah, I guess I could have a further discussion on the board side.
Okay.
I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Browdy. Any further discussion before we move on to roll call? Hearing none and seeing no hands. Move on to roll call. Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Board Chair Hockenhall,
Yes.
Chief Davis Gooch,
Yes.
Ms. Browdy,
Abstain.
Mr. Corbin,
Yes.
and Mr. Gary.
Yes.
Okay, with 5 yeses and 1 abstention, the motion carries. Jack Burns, Latino.
This next item before us is a purchase order increase to Meyer in the value of $9,433. This is to provide staff to help with internal moves over the winter break as we're getting ready to occupy recently renovated portions of the building. This is services that Buildings and Grounds does not have the staff to support. And as we've done with previous phases of renovation, we've used outside help. This has been reviewed and approved by the change order subcommittee, and we ask your endorsement.
Jack, is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Gary, seconded by Councilman Clark.
Second, yes.
Discussion. Hearing none, we'll go on to roll call. Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Board Chair Hockenhall,
Yes.
Chief Davis Gooch,
Yes.
Ms. Browdy,
Yes.
Mr. Corbin,
Yes.
and Mr. Gary.
Yes.
With 6 yeses, motion carries. All right, now we have a presentation, Jack, I imagine.
Yes, similar to what we just saw for Buckley, we now have a similar FF&E presentation for Burns.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Christopher Nardi, Principal and Project Architect with Silver Petroselli and Associates. Also with us are Jennifer Lipsett and Amanda Cleveland with our Interiors Department. If you go to the next slide, Jack. So in front of you today, we're seeking approval for Phase 3B, which is FF&E, and Phase 4 for Playscapes. Next slide. As you can see, previous phases 1, 2, and 3A were approved in the black font, and we're seeking approval on 3B and 4. These are the final phases for the Burns Latino project. Next slide. I'm going to pass it off to our interiors team to go through FF&E, and then I'll hop back on for Playscapes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to present. We will move through the presentation relatively quickly. So what we are showing you today is a typical kindergarten classroom. You'll see that very similar maple furniture throughout. Mobility is key. So you'll see a lot of the furniture is on wheels or is height adjustable. And then we have a portion of soft seating just for flexible learning environment. Next slide. Typical conference room, we are showing some office furniture. So you see some desks and credenzas, as conference and social worker. Task chairs are similar throughout, and filing is also similar throughout. Next slide. Typical resource administration, this is where you would typically have your PPTs. So we are showing multiple mobile furniture, so you can set it up for a large group of people, or you can break it down into a training session. Next slide. Special education classroom. Here we're showing a smaller group setting, tables in the round, and the similar storage units as the typical classroom. Next slide. Social worker, music office, again, same office furniture, similar task chairs and files. Next slide. Typical musical classroom is like all classrooms we've done. We have flexible seating, music stands, instructor podium, as well as music storage. Next slide. In the computer lab, we are again doing mobile furniture, some height adjustment. You'll see the same files throughout, and then some mobile whiteboards. In our media center, the desk and everything has already been built in. So we truly are just providing the supplemental furniture for the ancillary spaces, tables, soft seating, and a mix of shelving. In the art classroom, you're seeing the maple furniture again, great for cleanability, as well as providing some of the accessories like the wedge tables and pottery storage drying cabinets. Small contained classroom, you're seeing we have some sensory swings. The hooks are already being put into the structure. So we're providing the swings as well as some of the tactile wall squares for the children. And then I'm going to pass to Chris for phase 4, playscapes. Oh, you're muted, Chris.
Thank you. In terms of playscapes, if you could go to the next slide, please. We are providing 2 new playscapes, one for pre-K in the lower portion, the smaller one, and then the higher level grades is the larger playscape that you see more further to the north on that plan. The dashed lines in that previous plan represent accessibility paths from the school, from the parking areas, both on the north and south sides of the building. Next slide. This is a rendering of the pre-K age 2 through 5 playscape. Both of these playscapes that you're seeing in the renderings show the equipment, but what is not shown, we have a perimeter fence around each, a 4-foot high fence securing each of these playscapes so that when classes are brought in, the teachers have better oversight and students aren't able to freely run back and forth from the other site areas into the enclosed playscape areas. So in each playscape, it's a poured rubber surface, and then the equipment as shown, as well as some benches for seating. I'd be happy to go into any of the specific equipment if you'd like, but in this instance, in the pre-K, there are specific ADA pieces of equipment. The climbing area, which you see on the left-hand side, and then the primary large playscape in the back of the photo with a series of slides, climbers, and interactive pieces of equipment within the elevated portion of that set. Next slide. This is a different view of the same playscape. You can see some of the climbers and slides on the back side of the primary equipment. Next slide. This is the larger playscape for children aged 5 through 12. Swings in the back, both ADA and able-bodied, a zip line feature in the back right, a climbing net in the back left, that pyramid-shaped structure. And then in the foreground is the primary playscape with, again, a series of climbers and slides and other amenities, including balance beams, monkey bars, the large boat rocker, which is the large bluish element you see right there. Thank you. The next slide should provide a different view. Here's the net climb structure that you can see. And again, this playscape area is also enclosed by fencing. Next slide. Lastly, a bit of an aerial view where you can see some more of the amenities for the age 5 through 12 playscape. Lastly, we included some photos of construction progress. The upper left is the applications lab where the previous library was located. To the right of that is a typical classroom in terms of VCT flooring and our new built-in cabinetry, ceiling, and lighting. To the right of that is the corridor outside of the media center being to the left behind that aluminum storefront system with the decals on the glass. Bottom left photo is a computer lab. Obviously no furniture in there yet, but that will be fit out with stations and technology. And then the bottom right is a resource room used primarily by administration. And I believe that concludes our presentation.
Therefore, we have before us an action item to approve Phase 3B, furnished fixtures and equipment, as well as Phase 4 for playground equipment for the Burns project. This has been presented consistent with our previous phases, and we're asking your approval so that we can forward this information to the state for our plan review and permission to bid.
Thank you, Jack. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Councilman Clark, second.
Second.
Okay, Board Chair Hockenhall. Any discussion? I want to keep it quick, Chris, but is teal the color? Or is that to be determined?
I think it's to be determined. So Burns blue is the school color. That was a little more teal, I believe, than the Burns blue, but that's something we'll definitely confirm, and I'll get back to you and the committee.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Please, Mr. Gary.
Interested in keeping it quick also, but may I ask Chris directly about the poured rubber surface as
Sure.
opposed to the tile rubber, which fray and the corners pop up? Thank you.
Yeah, so the poured rubber surface offers a monolithic substrate and finish, where just over time in exterior applications, these tend to hold up better than a tiled surface would.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to roll call. Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Board Chair Hockenhall.
Yes.
Chief Davis Gooch.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Browdy.
Yes.
Mr. Corbin.
Yes.
And Mr. Gary.
Yes.
Okay, with 6 yeses, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Project reports, 5B. Jack.
Moving into our report, first up is Buckley High School. We're noting here in the summary, please go back, noting here in the summary chart that this is the first report in which the revised completion date of November 25 has been published. As has been discussed, other reports have held our hoped for delivery date of end of summer, but with the realities of the construction, we were not able to recoup the 3 months that it took for us to get additional funding for the project. And so we are confirming that with all things being as currently expected as far as delivery of critical materials, we anticipate construction completion on both central admin as well as the high school proper to be complete by November of 25, with the students occupying after the winter break. Next slide. At present, we are meeting or exceeding our labor goals, except for our ongoing challenges for Hartford resident workers at Burns. And we meet monthly with the unions in order to see where we can make up on those numbers. Next. As you saw a bit of a snippet of this in the FF&E presentation, we are currently looking at an unencumbered balance on the high school of $9 million. That includes the value of furnishings and technology, as well as owner's contingency. And for central admin side of the project, furniture, technology, and contingency, just a bit over $1 million unencumbered. Both projects are on budget at this time. As we see some photographs of our construction progress, the commissary building is looking like a building. Work is proceeding in there as per schedule. The skin on the building of the high school proper is well towards completion at this point. We're not complete, but it's really shaping up quite well. Right now, project progress, we're a bit over 55% for the high school, and with all the central admin functions, about just short of 65% completion. As you see, phase 5 building exterior demolition is complete. We do have phase 6A complete, and phase 7, which is the build out, is well underway and continuing according to schedule. Critical items remain our delivery of electrical switchgear, and we have in the roof replacement aspect of the project. There was some damage, deterioration of the auditorium roof deck, and we are pricing options to be able to cure that with the most cost-effective and time-efficient solution. Next slide. Moving on to the Burns project, we have an unencumbered balance of 9.3 million. That includes furniture and equipment, technology, owner's contingency, of which a healthy portion is to pay for features that were added back into the scope when we sought our refinancing. So right now we're proceeding to commit some of those funds to add those features that had been value engineered out of the project. But right now we're on track to be able to afford those features as we implement them. Next slide. Again, a couple of additional illustrations of project progress. Area 4 is currently under construction and is nearing delivery. Area 5, this B-wing second floor, is currently under construction, as well as Area 6, the first floor of the C-wing. Again, miscellaneous connections to rooftop equipment are ongoing, as well as the startup of the new rooftop equipment. Next slide. Some additional photos of work in progress. Next slide. And as we look at our activities moving forward for Buckley, a lot of it translates into maintaining activity with the trades that are on site. So as you see, we're into the finishes and interior construction in a big way. By February, the erection of the commissary will be complete. Next slide. And for Burns, you see the various areas under construction. We do expect to be moving into some of those areas over the winter break as well, per that approval of manpower for the movers. And I believe that completes our report. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, everyone, next item on our agenda is item number 6, current projects under design, Collier's project leaders, 6A being action items. Hand it over to Judy, right?
Right.
Okay, right. Please.
Afternoon all. The first thing we have here is when we bought some IT gear to fit into the temporary classrooms to make them work, which would normally have been bought under the FF&E portion of the building. When we got the price, they gave us a material, but they did not give us any kind of a licensing for the material that we purchased. So they came back and told us, hey, you need to buy a license for 3 years with 3-year support. And that's what you're looking at here for $1,358. So our recommendation is to proceed with the purchasing this license agreement and support for the Betances temporary classrooms, and authorize the Hartford School Building Committee, or Chairman of the Hartford School Building Committee, to execute this agreement on behalf of the committee. Any questions?
Thank you, Ray. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Board Chair.
Second.
Seconded?
Who was the second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you, Councilman Clark. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll move on to roll call. Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Board Chair Hockenhall.
Yes.
Chief Davis Scrooge.
Yes.
Ms. Browdy.
Yes.
Mr. Corbin.
Yes.
Mr. Gary.
Yes.
With 6 yeses, motion carries. Ray.
Next item is additional services for Tecton Architects. During the process of our program, we realized we had to do an addition to the school, which was not part of the original scope. So as consequently, they had to get some geotechnical borings for the addition, make sure that the soils could support the brick building. So that's what you're looking at here. The $8,690 was the geotechnical borings for the project. We added another $5,000 in there for additional reimbursables, which include like the fire main, checking the flow test for the fire sprinkler system, and different P&Z permit fees. So our recommendation is to approve this change, Amendment 1 to Tecton, in the amount of $13,690, and authorize the Director of Finance to increase their purchase order. Any questions?
Thank you, Ray. Is there a motion?
Move.
All right, Chief Davis Coos, seconded by Mr. Corbin. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to roll call. Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Board Chair Hockenhall.
Yes.
Chief Davis Coos.
Yes.
Ms. Browdy.
Yes.
Mr. Corbin.
Yes.
And Mr. Gary.
Yes.
Okay, 6 yeses, motion carries. Ray, extreme for Kennelly.
Same concept for Kennelly as we have with Betances. The contractor did not tell us we had to buy the license when we bought the equipment. So we're going back and asking for that additional cost. Same cost.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Board Chair.
Second.
Councilman Clark, discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Board Chair Hockenhall.
Yes.
Chief Davis Coos.
Yes.
Ms. Browdy.
Yes.
Mr. Corbin.
Yes.
And Mr. Gary.
Yes.
Okay, with 6 yeses, motion carries. Next is Wish School, right?
Yeah, Wish, early on, we had a change order that went through with Newfield to include the tree removal, the fiber optics IT, and additional fire watch allowance. Consequently, when we put that in front of the committee, we had the overhead and bonds costs within the cost. So we're coming back to you here to modify that and reduce the cost to where it should be. Those costs are typically brought up at the end of the project when they put them all together, and it's easier for the state to monitor those costs and reimburse those costs. And doing them in the end, it's usually easier for them to approve them. So we're looking for the committee here to affirm this change order, the modification to this change order to take out the overhead and profit and the bond and insurance, and to the tune of $141,243.63 versus the $144,845.35 we had originally.
Thank you, Ray. Is there a motion?
So move.
Mr. Gary, second.
Second.
Board Chair Hockenhall, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to roll call. Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Board Chair Hockenhall.
Yes.
Chief Davis Coos.
Yes.
Ms. Browdy.
Yes.
Mr. Corbin.
Yes.
And Mr. Gary.
Yes.
There's 6 yeses, the motion carries. Ray, continue with Wish.
On Wish, we've been going through the abatement for the existing building. We had originally intended on having, I forget the number of months for the original project. At that time, we didn't have any real scope for able to put a price on, so we gave them a set time frame. We've gone over that time frame to the tune of $24,300 is basically the issue of it. Nothing unexpected there. Everything happened like it was supposed to. As a matter of fact, we've got our last clearance happening right now. Any questions?
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Chief Davis Coos. Second.
I'll second that.
Mr. Corbin. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go on to roll call. Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Board Chair Hockenhall.
Yes.
Chief Davis Coos.
Yes.
Ms. Browdy.
Yes.
Mr. Corbin.
Yes.
And Mr. Gary.
Yes.
With 6 yeses, motion carries. Ray, Wish structural peer review.
On Wish with a new building, because we've got a space, it's over 1,000 occupants, meaning the gym and the cafeteria. Which put us into the category where we need to do a structural peer review, an independent structural peer review. So we went out with an RFQ or RFP to all the structural companies within the area. And we got one response, which was Michael Horton Associates for $10,800. That number is fair and reasonable, and it's actually a little less than I expected at this point. These dollars were included in our budget, so there is no real hit to the budget. Any questions? So our recommendation is to proceed with this agreement.
Or a motion?
Motion.
Okay, Board Chair Hockenhull with the motion, Mr. Corbin with the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to roll call. Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Board Chair Hockenhull,
Yes.
Chief Davis Googe,
Yes.
Ms. Browdy,
Yes.
Mr. Corbin,
Yes.
and Mr. Gary.
Yes.
Okay, with 6 yeses, motion carries. Thank you, Ray. 6B on the agenda, everybody, is project reports from Collier's project leaders. Ray, take it away.
Next slide. Petasas, we're running along pretty good. We just took bids here last week. We're still evaluating those bids. We've got a couple of other bid packages that are due back here in next at the beginning of the year. Right now we're 100% design complete. Phase 2 with bidding was done on the 12th. The project is on budget as we stand. Construction wise, we're finishing up the utilities for the temporary classrooms. And actually the first units of temporary classrooms just showed up. So it's going along fairly decently. Our budget is maintained. We've contracts out about $18.85 million. We paid today $3.169 million, and our final budget's holding true at $66.83 million. Any questions on Betances? Into our labor here, we're actually looking pretty good. We're Hartford residents, we're keeping above the standard of 30%, as well as minority participation. Contractual wise, we're still evaluating those right now. We should have those numbers fairly quickly. Preliminary, it looks like we're well above our 20%, or 50% for the city and 5% for the PLA. So we're looking pretty good on participation. Next slide. This gives you an idea what we're doing the next couple of months. December, we're going to be finishing up the temporary classrooms. We're going to be moving into these classrooms for the beginning of the year. Beginning of the year, we'll finish setting up the classrooms for the first couple of days with the intent that they'll be ready to go on January 6th. We will be looking at putting some letters of recommendations out for all the bids that we just took to the bid selection committee in January, and we're hoping to come up with a GMP towards the end of January. And in February, we'll be doing all the contracts in phase 2, so we can get ready and start on the major construction probably in the March timeframe. Any questions of Betances?
I see.
Next slide. What's that, Al?
I see a hand up. Ms. Brody, is there?
I'm sorry.
Ms. Browdy, please.
Brody.
Yes, correct me if I'm wrong. When we put out, like when we put stuff out to bid, is there ever a case where we're listing one vendor as opposed to 3?
No. Well, no, I take that back. There is a couple of cases where we do have sole source requests by the city. Those go in front of the state review board, and they either approve it or disapprove it. Now we're talking about fire alarm, we're talking about lock sets and such like that. But everything else we go out would go out with at least 3 bidders or 3 recommended manufacturers. We go from there.
Okay. Why would we only give one for a fire alarm? That's one of the examples you gave?
That is one of the examples I gave. It's more to keep it consistent with the rest of the district and try to keep them more uniform for their maintenance contracts and availability of products. Makes it easier for them to manage.
Even if we're a district that have different ones in different schools, so why would we start just putting one?
It's up to the district, but the easy answer is it's best to have one vendor for that type of product to maintain your parts, because the parts tend to be more expensive as well as service. And it's
So,
consistent
Ms. Browdy,
because
Ray, let me hop in here for a moment.
Okay.
So the system that facilities from Hartford Public Schools chose allows the district to hire more than just one vendor to maintain that system, to where there's other manufacturers that you are pigeonholed on using a particular vendor to maintain it, and it ends up costing the district more money, not having that flexibility to keep people honest.
Well, I think that's what I'm thinking that's being created, not what exists now. We have many different fire alarms, using that as an example. And now we're moving to listing one when we have others. So it's not making it easier, because it would make more sense to me if we were in line with others we currently have, instead of just going a route with the current one that's offered in our bids. So I don't understand the logic.
Great questioning, Ms. Browdy. I wonder if Tom Welcome, if you'd be able to offer some technical wisdom to this conversation.
Sure. I know that the preferred vendors that we put on the list, a lot of it's based on available service and parts. That's what it really comes down to. Sometimes a company will look good up front during installation and during a sales pitch, but I won't mention any names. I've had experiences where we just can't get responses for proper service. So those type of companies we stay away from.
That we currently have? Like how?
I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand either. Because I'm saying if we have many schools, and maybe, I don't know where this conversation needs to happen, maybe not here to help me understand, but when we start putting one company, that can be perceived in many different ways. That we are one way it could be perceived that we're trying to just give business to this one company, and why, when we have other alarm systems or on any other product. So I don't understand it. I don't want to belabor the point in this meeting, but it still doesn't make sense to me. So, Mr. Chair, however you deem appropriate, for that to be addressed, because it is different than what we've done in the past. So this is under the current construction manager. So I need to have that understanding.
Ms. Browdy, is it acceptable for me to gather the information and the facts and present it to you via email?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. I will do so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any further discussion? Thank you, Ms. Browdy. Ray, next.
Okay, next slide. It brings us to Kennelly. Kennelly, our budget's 88.13 million. We've contracted out today 15.67. We paid today 3.43. We're presently 100% design. We've been out to bid. We've got the bids back. We are presently going through the scope reviews during the month of December. We're expecting I think it was 3 other packages coming back in January the 3rd. Those packages were because there was some conflicts in the design documents, and it wasn't as clear as it could have been. Project presently is on budget. We are in the process of getting all the utilities in the underground there over at Kennelly to put the temporary classrooms in, and we're pressing forward. Any questions of where we are? Next slide, please. We're looking a little bit low on our phase one implementation for the Hartford residency. We are expecting to increase that up as the portable classrooms show up and we end up doing some of the trade work. Minority wise, we're still pretty high. Contractually right now, we're looking about 23% for all of the contracts that we're looking to issue right now. We still have 3 out there that we don't know at the moment, which could change that, but I still see us meeting that requirement. Any questions on this? Next slide. Gets us into the look ahead. Right now, we're messing up the west side of the school, putting all the utilities in. Next month, you'll be seeing the selection committee will be seeing some of the bids that we are recommending, with the intent for us to put in front of this committee during the January meeting, which would put us into the end of the month. They'll be doing the contracting phase 2. February, you start seeing some of the site work being done in the addition, and as well as starting to pack up some of the classrooms and move them into the temporary classrooms. Any questions? Thing missing here is the February. We do expect to have the classrooms in place. So we're looking pretty good for that project. Brings us to the Wish School. Wish School, we're design-wise, we're about 90% done. Our budget is still 67.3 million. We've contracted 12.5 million. We paid out to date about 3.73 million. And we're still on schedule, still on queue to meet our budget. The overall progress, like I said, we're 90% done with the final construction documents. We're expecting those to be next week sometime. Construction-wise, we have gone through all the abatement for the project. We've got 1 final air clearance today, and we're expecting it to be nice and clean for when we start the demolition. Next slide, please. Residential-wise, we're right on the money for Hartford residents. We're well over the minority participation level, and I won't have any real contract information for you for percent participation in the contracts until we get to the final CD stage. Next phase. December, we're finishing up. We finished up the abatement. We're looking to go through the permitting process for the demolition. MDC has shut off the water supply. We are in the process of cutting and packing and cutting and capping those lines as we speak. In January, we're looking to take that building down, and we're looking to have the CD estimates involved pretty much secured at that point for us to take a look at and make sure we're on schedule with what we've designed and into our budget. During January, we'll end up doing some design reviews, and everybody will have their last chance to make sure we're getting what we expect. In February, we expect to be in front of this committee to go for our PCR, and everything looks good for us to meet that schedule. Any questions on Wish? And that should be all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Ray. All right, everyone. Next on the agenda is item number 7, current projects and startup, Arcadis ONG Nutmeg. Hand it back over to Mr. Buckus.
Thank you. For the Moylan project, we are scheduling meetings to review our design options of renovate, replace, or a hybrid of same. McDonough has had that determination, and we're proceeding with schematic design. And Parkville, we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow to review those options to pick our direction. The plan moving forward, since the state has decided to no longer hold the schematic design review, concept review meetings, is to move forward with the selection of project approach after consultation with the city and Hartford Public Schools, and then package our actions as special legislation to be put onto the agenda for the 2025 legislative calendar. Any funding adjustments will be presented in that package as well. So we should have more detail for the January meeting on just how those projects are proceeding as far as the design direction. As I said, McDonough is already committed into the schematic design process. Any questions?
Yeah, I suppose maybe not a question more than maybe a little more information for the committee, Jack, is McDonough specifically, you know, the estimates, the firm that we had do the cost estimating for the grant, swing and missed on this one. So right now, Jack, what do we have and where are we trending? Please and thank you.
The original or the study that was done regarding McDonough identified a project of some 95 million and change. When the paperwork went through the state grant process, it came through as $59 million and change. So it looked as though there was all of the attendant thousands in dollars were the same between the two. It seems as though it could have been just a transposition. As such, we need to go back and request the appropriate number of dollars at the point where we will need to make our legislative requests known. We will have advanced design to a point where we have a bit more confidence, and we're hopeful that we'll need fewer than the 95 million in order to actually move the project forward. In the process of doing these option studies for Moylan and Parkville, we will also do a similar confirmation of cost, and any adjustments necessary to those projects will be presented at the same time.
Thank you, Jack. And similar to last year around this time with Kennelly, Betances, and Wish, we went before council and ultimately to the delegation for support on making those three projects whole. And that indeed is where we're trending on these three. Moylan and Parkville, not so much, but McDonough being taking the prize. Any questions? Jack, any further updates on these three schools?
Not at this time.
All right, thank you, Jack. All right, everyone, item number 8 on the agenda, future projects and development. We have all the documentation into procurement. We hope that this gets out on the street within the next week or so. So we're excited to get these projects moving forward, get the owner's project manager on board so we can hit the ground running. Any questions on these three schools? Hearing none, item number 9 on the agenda, project closeout, Weaver High School. I did update the committee privately on the fire alarm this morning. We'll continue to do so and provide them with updates. Any questions on Weaver High School? Hearing none, item number 10 is other business, which I have none, and I'll pause here to see if anybody has other business. Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to item number 11, which is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Gary? Is that Ms. Browdy for a second?
Yes.
And I imagine there's no discussion, and then we'll do roll call. Councilman Clark. Councilman Clark, would you like to adjourn?
He may be muted.
He don't want us to adjourn.
That's a long Board Chair Hockenhall.
Yes.
All right. Chief Davis Gooch.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Browdy,
Yes.
Mr. Corbin,
Yes.
and Mr. Gary.
Yes.
All right, with 5 yeses, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
I know.
Happy holidays.